Welcome to EBACE TV. I'm Allison Godlove. We're excited to kick off day 2 here at EBACE 2023. So joining me now in the studio is Eric Lindbergh, the chairman of the Lindbergh Foundation. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having us.
How is it going so far? How are you feeling?
It's great. You know, shows like this are so important for us. If we're going to really help aviation move to sustainable fuels and sustainable flight for our children and grandchildren, we have to have shows like this so that we can work as a concerted industry effort to help create those changes.
And that's a big focus of the Lindbergh Foundation.
Oh yeah. So when we announced with you at BACE in Orlando last year, we had a brain trust meeting, and that was all focused on the aviation industry and the energy industry and understanding what the barriers are to transitioning to sustainable aviation fuels, which is kind of what aviation has all its eggs in one basket, the SAF basket. And it's a huge scaling issue. So how we transition, how do we get the most SAF in the least amount of time for the lowest cost and the most environmental sustainability is really the key.
So how are you doing that?
Well, we're drilling down on each of those areas, and the Brain Trust helps us understand what the barriers are so that we can apply incentive prizes like the X Prize or the Orteig Prize that my grandfather won in 1927 to fly across the Atlantic nonstop. Those prizes generate leverage. They get people to come out of the woodwork or the basements or the laboratories and come up with new solutions that will help us, in this case, improve the widespread availability and adoption of SAF.
And a lot of those are the conversations that you're having around those barriers that would be, helpful in these situations.
Correct. And we're here at EBACE. We have this incredible opportunity in the United States to have the corn ethanol biofuel industry, which is really established, creates 17 billion gallons of ethanol per year. If we can help convert that industry to producing SAF, because they're facing disruption due to the electric automobile industry. So they see a finite future to that industry. If we can convert them to SAF, we can reach we can actually have the potential of 10 billion gallons of SAF from that industrial complex. They have biofuel industry in Brazil, but they don't have it here in Europe. So we're trying to understand, as we discover what the technology is needed for that shift in industry in the United States, also the regulatory issues around it and the public perception issues. We want to make sure that we don't damage the environment more by creating this solution. So we're looking at a comprehensive suite of prizes, including agriculture, so that we don't screw up the water. We figure out how to use nitrogen or fertilizers in a way that they don't create problems downstream, literally, or the Gulf of Mexico. And we're here in Europe to find out what are the barriers to scaling SAF production here in Europe.
Has that been a lot of the conversations that you've been having this week or will have as this continues?
Yes, and of course we're a nonprofit, so we're self-funded. We have some angel funders like Prince Albert of Monaco and NBAA who have gotten this going, and now we need real commercial industry sponsors that can back this effort, because we're in the hard process of discovery. We're going to move into the design phase, and that takes a long time to make sure that we design the prizes correctly so that they're not trivial solutions. They need to create meaningful solutions that solve our intent, and that is sustainable aviation, like in a holistic manner. So not just creating more fuel, but making sure that we clean up the environment at the same time. And hey, by the way, if we are able to crack green hydrogen and bring the cost of that down, that's a process that all the SAF producers use, and it's one of the biggest cost factors. So our brain trust, our hydrogen brain trust, is saying hydrogen is the Swiss Army knife, if you will, of sustainable fuels. It can be used in almost all those processes, and also to help create ammonia, which is used for fertilizer. So help to feed the world and produce SAF. So there's some real synergies here. I hate to use an overused word, but there really are.
A lot of pieces to come together.
Oh yeah, pieces that come together that when you're looking at a planetary system, all the effects, all the causes and effects. We're trying to address the whole piece of that, and that's why our brain trusts are so important, because we're not experts in agriculture or hydrogen or sustainable aviation fuels, even though we're learning a lot about them.
Yeah.
They're helping us to understand what those barriers are. And when we do incentive prizes, like the X Prize, when we launched in 1996, now I'm wearing two hats.
Okay.
My X Prize hat, which is using incentive prizes to help solve the grand challenges facing humanity, and my Lindbergh Foundation hat, which is aviation centric. My career has been in aviation. Most of our board members are in aviation. And so we're using, the Lindbergh Foundation has partnered with the X Prize, and we're using the prize philanthropy model to solve these issues. The Brain Trust is helping us to understand and make sure that we design these prizes right, because it's as much of an art as it is a science. And so we need to get that right.
So that's a lot that you have on your plate. But also then...
But wait, there's more.
But wait, so what's next then?
What's next? Well, we need funding. So we're approaching corporate sponsors here. We're talking to big corporations and small. We're building an advisory panel, so we're really trying to reach the opinion leaders that can help us. We've got the ABC groups on board now, and really working to build momentum so that as we move towards the 100th anniversary of my grandfather's flights, that we're really in process. And we have really an industry-wide momentum that's moving. So as we celebrate the 100th anniversary, which changed the way people thought about aviation and jump-started the golden era of flight, they know that we're working on this really hard from within the industry.
Wonderful. Well, it was wonderful to talk to you. Thank you so much for coming by to spend some time with us.
My pleasure.
Thank you. Have a great rest of the week here at EBACE.
Thank you.
All right, thanks.